I'm Old Head Ed.
And I'm Mr. Beleaf. And we like to welcome y'all to Barcodes. Barcodes is a podcast where we delve into the lyrics of your favorite MCs, verse by verse.
Each episode, we invite an artist onto the show,
break down their own bars, and give the listeners a deeper understanding of the meaning and inspiration behind their music.
From underground up-and-comers to established industry veterans.
We cover it all. So join us as we explore the art of MCing and the stories behind the bars on Barcodes.
Hey, yo, it's Barcodes.
Barcodes in the building.
The podcast. Welcome to the YouTube channel. I am Old Head Ed.
Mr. Beleaf on this side.
Yes, sir. And we're back with another episode, another esteemed guest. This is a podcast where we give our guests the opportunity to break down some bars. Let us know what went into writing, developing the concept, the ideas, where it comes from. This time around, we got, y'all might recognize him. I might recognize him from somewhere.
Definitely a heavy hitter, man.
Yes,
heavy
we got
hitter, bro.
Skyzoo in the building.
Yeah. Peace.
Yo, thank you so much for taking the time, man. This is a pleasure for us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely a pleasure,
Excellent.
man. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Likewise.
man. Everything good?
Yeah, everything is smooth. Excited to continue to just roll out, this piece of art.
Word. Okay, so we're gonna keep it on track with that same thing, that same energy, because we're gonna roll this out. We're gonna get into one of the songs, a verse off one of the songs off the latest joint. It's "The Mind of the Saint."
The Mind of a Saint,
Word. Okay.
which is me rhyming from the perspective of Franklin Saint of Snowfall. So for all the viewers out there, if you are fans of Snowfall, this album is literally as if Franklin went in the booth and made an album. So I tell people, every breath on this album, every word on this album, every moment, every emotion on this album, none of them are mine. None of them are Skyzoo's. They're all Franklin Saints. So I don't mention my name on the record. I don't mention anything about Brooklyn or New York or where I'm from. Everything is, hi, my name is Franklin Saint. I'm from South Central, West 56 to be exact. I sell coke for a living, and this is what the hell I've been through. That's what the album is about.
Yeah,
It's like a form of like method acting in like a album.
Strong point.
Absolutely.
Strong point.
It literally is an entirely conceptual album. It's like if Franklin went in the booth and let it all rip.
What drew you to this series, like this show in particular?
Well, I'm a huge fan of the show. Everybody knows I'm a Wire head. I love The Wire. So when the show first came out, people was hitting me like, yo, you gotta check the new show, Snowfall. And I was like, I definitely got to, man. It was telling me what it was about.
Yeah.
But when Snowfall came out, my son was on the way. He wasn't born yet, but he was in the oven. So I'm dealing with gender reveals, baby showers, doctor visits. I was writing in celebration of us at the time.
Wow.
I was working on my move to Atlanta from Brooklyn. So I had a lot going on. So I didn't have the chance to sit and catch it.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, they was already on damn near season 3. And I was like, I hate going backwards on a show because there's so much to catch up on.
Facts.
So I just didn't get a chance to do it, but I always said, I got to do it. I got to find the tune. I got to find the time to do it. I got to find the time to do it. And then during COVID, that's when I found the time to do it, during the pandemic. Right?
Yeah.
We all found time
Right.
to
So when
catch
that was
up
going
shows.
on, I said, now is the perfect time.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't stop. Once I started it, I ran through like 3 seasons in a weekend.
It's easy.
It was
It's easy to get
sometimes
caught.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was a season a night,
Yeah.
So that's how I wound up, just being a fan of the show. And, the idea for the album came from a homie of mine. Shout out to my man, Kerry Watkins. He was a high-ranking executive with the Portland Trailblazers at the time, of all places.
Wow.
And him and I got really cool. And he would always be like, yo, man, one of my favorite projects from you is Theo versus JJ. He would be like, that's top 3 Skyzoo projects in my opinion. I'm like, oh, no doubt. So he was like, yo, you got to do Avon versus Franklin, talking about Avon Barksdale versus Franklin Saint.
Yeah.
And I was like, I used to laugh when I was like, man, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Like, we just kind of mess around with each other. And I'll be like, bro, I'm not doing that, man. Like, because the thing about Theo versus JJ is the concept behind it is the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Theo's on this side looking at those type of kids on the other side like, damn, y'all got it easy. And JJ is on his side looking at kids like Theo, like, yeah, y'all got it easy, y'all got it good. So the whole thing is the juxtaposition of it all. Yeah. And that's what that EP is, not an album, but that's what that EP is about. So, but with Avon versus Franklin, it just didn't tie together for me. So I was like, I ain't doing that. But Kerry would always keep hitting me about it. And the last time he hit me, I said, you know what, man? I'm not going to do that, but I think you're on to something.
There's something there.
And I just took the Franklin element and ran with it. I was like, I'm not going to do Avon versus Franklin. I'm just going to do a Franklin album. And that's how it came together. So shout out to my man Kerry for being the lighter that lit the fuse and let this thing run out.
Drop the seed.
If it wasn't for him, this wouldn't exist, because he was hitting me with, yo, you got to do that, you got to, and I was like, I ain't doing that, but I'm going to do this, and that's how that happened.
Your persistence is key.
That's my man. That's my man right there.
Situation right here.
Word up.
Speaking of situation, we're going to get into the second verse off the last track of the project. It's Purity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those, my leanings towards this was like, I was trying to tie the story together with the actual show,
right.
And a couple times I was like, I think I missed these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where did this happen? And I kind of did what you did, where I sat through all the seasons leading up to the finals, the debut of the final season. I had just like made the cutoff where I watched the last episode of the previous season right before or right as the final season dropped. So, so I had it fresh in my memory, and I heard the project a couple times, and I was like, where's that story at? So. Right. That's what intrigued me and helped me decide. I'm like, yo, we got to have him do this verse.
Absolutely. It's the one moment on the album that did not happen in the show, but the reason why I wrote it the way I wrote it helps explain why the show is so poignant. You know,
right.
So the whole verse, it makes sense to just run through the whole verse,
now,
and then we'll break it. Oh, go ahead.
Beleaf usually has a question that he likes.
Oh, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Do you remember when and where you were at when you wrote this, and what kind of inspiration?
I do.
Well, the inspiration I already saw.
I got
what you said with your man.
Yeah, I got to get into it. For this verse, I got to explain that after the verse.
All right.
Because it'll give it away.
Definitely.
So one day I met a brother named DeWitt on the corner of Crenshaw and Slauson with his kids, teaching them black pride and about owning where we live. I overheard the talking when it told them who I'm is, minus the coke, of course. I said, I'm Franklin. I own some properties all over town, and yo, I admire the way you giving your boys crowns. He said, man, I'm just doing my job, being encouraging. This is my son, Sammy, and the little one is Ermias. I reached out, giving them dap, hiding my nervousness, hoping they don't pick up the cue of me on my services. One had a smile of gold, the other had hair like he was Jesus. I looked at them both like the city need them. Pistol on my waist, but my Lacoste was draped over it. Thank God, this ain't what I want, baby Jesus noticing. Fiends walking by that I knew from my grand opening. Feelings came over me, I pray don't never come over them. My reputation walk in front of me like it's security. I hide behind more business cards, less jewelry. DeWitt doted on his kids until the day was done. Sammy was maybe 4, Ermias maybe 1. With a soul full of guilt and a trunk with product stock, I downplayed my car and told him you could buy your block. And as DeWitt and his family made their way up the street, I prayed that what I did to this corner's bigger than me. Yo, I need purity. Yeah. So with the verse, did you want to...
Well, so I mean, I appreciate. We can go line for line.
Here. I mean, the best way to do it, huh?
You were insinuating. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
You were insinuating that the Beleaf's question, as far as the mind frame and where you were when you wrote it, had to be understood. I mean, in order for it to be understood, you had to hear the verse.
Yeah.
So
still got to wait on that.
Okay.
Still got to wait on that because it'll give it away.
Edge of my seat, literally.
Still got to give it. Still got to wait on that. So, like I said, this is the one moment on the record that did not happen in the show.
Yeah.
But the thing with the album is, if I just told you everything that happened on the show, there would be no reason for you to hear the album. If I just said, Franklin met with Lucia, they was in the park, and if I, and Lucia wouldn't give up who shot, who killed Delroy, and blah blah blah. Yeah. You saw that.
Yeah.
You listened to the album once and you're good.
Yeah.
So what I had to do was take those same moments and take all of that and expand on it in a way that it's something where it feels like, dag, all of this happened in the show, and it says that Franklin looked at it in this perspective or thought of it in this perspective, even though they didn't get into what his perspective or thought would have been, right? So it's almost like that could have been an episode that got lost on the cutting room floor. Mm-hmm. Or that could have been an episode that they didn't shoot, or that they forgot to shoot, or that episode, that script got lost. Like take for instance Panthers and Powder. When you think about Panthers and Powder, we know Franklin grew up as a Panther. We know, he was in Oakland and then moved to LA. We know all of that type of stuff. Because they've alluded to it. They've shown little flashback clips.
Yeah.
They showed him walking through Oakland when he remembered when he met the Fiend chick, and he remembered,
that was the space
exactly, this is familiar, and there was the Panther headquarters in Oakland. So we know that. So Panthers and Powder is me expanding on that and saying, I grew up as a Panther, now I'm selling white. I grew up as a Black Panther, now I'm selling white. How did I get here? Well, here's how I got here. So that's just an example of that. So with Purity, especially with the second verse, I had this idea of, okay, how do we let people know Franklin, even though he's a fictional character, is realistic in the sense of he's based on not one person in particular, but the real life Franklins of the world, whether they was in South Central, whether they was in New York, whether they was in Detroit, Chicago, DC, Miami, wherever. All the real life Franklin Saints of the 80s, right? So how do we tie it together to show people it's a fictional world, but it's a reality in the same breath?
It can exist where we,
and it did exist. You know what I'm saying? Just under different names. Yeah. How do we tie it in? So I'm sitting in the studio, and on my studio wall, I have all my plaques and different things I've been blessed with, and I have a framed copy of the Final Call newspaper when Nipsey died. Nipsey Hussle died.
Wow.
And it's right in front of the mic. For whatever reason, I put it there when Nip first died. Rest in peace to Nip, of course. So that hit me hard, and I went out to LA to the store and everything afterwards, and showed my respects and everything like that. And they were giving out the Final Calls, and I brought a couple home, and I framed one of them, and it's on my studio. It's been on my studio since that happened years ago, right on the wall in front of the mic. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it. I'm sitting there with my phone in my hand writing, and I'm brainstorming. I'm thinking, the beat is playing, and I just looked up at it. And he's looking at me on the newspaper, and I just looked up at it, and I had this idea. Franklin, where we are in the show and where we are on the album, is 1986. South Central. Nipsey Hussle and his brother Black Sam are from South Central. Crenshaw, Slauson.
Yeah.
In 86, Black Sam would have been 4, Nipsey would have been 1, right? As far as age.
Yeah, as far as age goes.
So I did the math. Why is Nipsey no longer here? Well, Nipsey's no longer here because regardless of the great things that he was trying to do, he was taken from us before he got to really finish doing these great things by the thinking and the mindset of the neighborhood, right? The neighborhood was built by a bunch of real life Franklin Saints in the 80s. So I said, what if Franklin Saint met Nipsey and his father and his brother as little kids? Because in the mid 80s, Franklin was in his 20s and Nipsey and them was toddlers.
Yeah.
So now you fast forward 30 years later, this same neighborhood that was built by the real life Franklin Saints is what took Nip out.
Yeah.
So the verse is Franklin talking to Nipsey and Black Sam and Brother DeWitt, who is Nipsey's father.
Oh shit.
So that's what the verse is.
Oh shit.
And
round of applause for that fucking shit. Damn.
And what it's saying, what I'm saying on the record is, that's why at the end I said, and as DeWitt and his family made their way up the street, I pray that what I did to this corner is bigger than me. Like, well, I saw that what I did to this corner is bigger than me. I'm sorry. And as DeWitt and his family made their way up the street, I saw that what I did to this corner is bigger than me. Where he's looking at it like, wow. He's looking at Black Sam, and he's a stranger on the street, and they just start talking. Franklin admires the fact that he's a black man with his 2 black sons.
Yeah.
Wow. And they just start talking, having a conversation. They just start conversing, and Franklin leaves out the drug stuff, of course, but he's like, yo, man, my name is Franklin, man. That's dope what you're doing with your sons, man. I see a black man with his 2 sons, taking care of them, going around the neighborhood, doing the right thing. That's dope. Yo, what do you do? Oh, I own a couple buildings, blah, blah, blah. I own some property, some real estate. Yeah. Okay, word. Yo, this is my son, Sammy. Yo, my little one, that's Ermias. Ermias is Nip.
Yeah.
That's Nip's real name. So this is where the detail comes in that we talked about, off record. I couldn't say in the verse, DeWitt had a son named Nipsey. Nobody called Nipsey
back
in
then.
86.
Yeah, of course.
So I had to say Ermias and hope that the people got it. Because I had to be authentic with the record and the timeline of it. I couldn't be like, yo, he had a son named Ermias, but the little boy Sammy called him Nipsey. I couldn't do that. That'd be stupid.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 people would have did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as a writer, I had to go even further with it. So I had to just say Ermias and hope that the people got it when they listened to it. And you look at it and it's like when Nip was a kid or a baby and when Black Sam and them, this is the neighborhood that they were raised up in and built them up.
Yeah.
For better and worse of what they went through and what they did and what they experienced, etc. Well, who built that neighborhood? The neighborhood was built by the real life Franklins in the mid 80s. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Franklin Saint in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
So again, I said, what if Franklin met Nipsey and his brother and his father and had a realization of, yo, what am I doing to this neighborhood? These little kids are gonna suffer because of what I've done. So essentially, I'm blaming Franklin for Nipsey's death and the deaths of all the others that were taken from us too soon, like Nip, early 20s and 30s and too young to be gone and, all that type of stuff. Essentially, I'm blaming Franklin for Nipsey's death. That's what the second verse is doing.
Yeah. Nuts.
Bro, that's impressive, bro. That's all I can say, though. That's like impressive.
Yeah, it's so when you ask what was the inspiration and how to, that's why I said I couldn't get into it yet, because it would have gave it away, So I'm literally sitting in the studio and I see the final call framed on the wall, which I've seen 1,000 times when I'm writing and recording, but for whatever reason, I have a saying, Jay said it and I kind of run with it a lot, where like God walks in the room, like you leave the door cracked and God walks in the room. I feel like God is always in the room, but sometimes he'll come in the room and pull up a chair. And I think that was one of those moments where he pulled up a chair, because I'm looking at it and I was like, yo, Nip is from the same neighborhood as Franklin.
Yeah.
Yo, Nip was born in 85. I'm writing this album in 86. Yo, Nip was a baby. And Black Sam was born in 82 like me. We the same age. Yo, wait a minute. They're the kids that the real life Franklins
would have encountered.
Exactly. Yeah. They're the kids living in this neighborhood, just living in the neighborhood, playing with toys and going outside and doing whatever. And you got the real life Franklins running around as drug dealers and murderers and millionaires in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
They're the reason the neighborhoods become what they become. Because Snowfall is a story about, it's not glorifying what Franklin does. There's moments where you're excited. I think they've done a beautiful job at humanizing Franklin, because you find yourself rooting for the bad guy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Franklin is the bad guy because of what he's done and what he's doing. He's got bodies on top of bodies. He brought, crack to the city and turned out an entire city of millions of people, and he expanded it. At the end of the day, Franklin's the bad guy. Yeah. But they've humanized him in the show where you root for him at times. I don't want him to get jammed with nothing. I want him to escape everything.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it in real life, it's like, dag, like the real life Franklins are the reasons why we don't have certain family members and friends in our lives. We all got people that's been impacted by crack.
Yeah,
me included. I got family and people that are no longer here because of rock, So at the end of the day, you look at it like, well, he's the reason this neighborhood is like this. He's the reason why Nipsey didn't get to do the great things he wanted to do, because the mindset of the neighborhood
that was already
that already existed is what took Nipsey and hundreds, if not thousands of others from South Central, from Brooklyn, from Miami, from Detroit, from Chicago. Like, it's that mindset that came from what the Franklins of the world did. And that's a whole nother discussion of the CIA and pushing that on us. That's a whole nother discussion. So I'm not going to sit there and just be like, well, they're the bad guys and that's that. No, there's a root behind it as well. And that's a whole nother thing that I talk about on 100 to 1. But, that's why I wrote that verse the way I did. So that's the only moment on the album that did not happen in the show, but clearly could have. And when the record dropped, you can go on the gram, you go on YouTube, everybody was like, yo, they got to turn this into an episode. You know what I mean? Like, they got to make an episode where Franklin meets a dude and two little kids, and that's like, it's just, it makes too much sense.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
They got to make an episode, you know what I mean? So clearly they didn't, because the show was done. But you read the comments, everybody was like, my God, I hope they turn this into an episode. You know what I mean? Like, it just shows, and that's where I went with it. So that's what makes the album so special. That's what makes the album so, impactful. And the people are calling it a masterpiece and calling it a work of art. There's people saying it belongs in a museum, like all these different things. It's because of shit like this.
Yeah, it's very detailed and very like deep. Like a lot
goes
of
deeper
thoughts.
than everything.
Yeah, it goes deep.
Yeah, because other people who would have made this album, they wouldn't have done things like that, right?
Yeah.
An album like this gives you a get out of jail free card.
You can keep it real surface.
And absolutely. And what I mean by the get out of jail free card is here's your chance to talk about all the guns and all the coke and all the killing and all the money you want, right? We talk about hip hop where, hip hop is bad now because, all it is drugs and money and bitches and shooting and coke and blah, 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 blah. Here's your get out of jail free card. You can say, I'm just being creative. I'm just reciting what's on the show, so you could walk into the studio and be like, bang, bang, I clapped this one, I came through and shot Duke in the head and blah, blah, blah. My name is Franklin. I be throwing mad coke. Like, you can go crazy and it would be accepted because of what the show is about. Yeah. There was no way in the world I was doing that. My thing is Panthers and Powder. 100 to 1.
You took it to
purity,
another level.
Apologies in order.
Hell yeah.
Even Straight Drop, which is along those lines of the previous, but it gets to the point of what the story is about. Like, if you got to tell a story, you got to tell the whole story. So you have records like Straight Drop, Brick by Brick, where it seems celebratory, but it's it's the Lego in between piece A and piece C. It's piece B, it's the Lego in between. So that's what makes the album so special, because a lot of people would not have gone there. They would have just made 10 records about clapping shit up and moving weight and getting busy with it.
I believe that's true.
Absolutely, because now you have the pass. Because if anybody questions it, it's like, I'm just doing what they did on the show. I'm just but the show doesn't just do that. The show is deeper than that. So when I did the album, I was like, well, the type of writer I am, there's no way in the world I'm gonna be surface with it.
We thank you for that.
What I'm doing, that's why it's called The Mind of a Saint, where it's like, these are the things that are on his mind and in his psyche of what he's dealing with. It's not a celebration. Everybody I know, everybody that I grew up with who was in the scramble or still might be, they hate their job. It just pays extremely well. But you let hip hop tell it it's the coolest job in the world. And that's why this album was important, and that was the point I wanted to get across, was how do we reach these kids? And when I say kids, meaning like high school, college, 20s, up and up. How do we reach these kids and explain, none of this is a party. It's not a big Coke boat party. It's not on yachts throwing keys like footballs. It's not throwing powder in the air like LeBron. It's none of that. How do I get that across? Well, I'm going to use this vehicle. So I use Snowfall and Franklin Saint as a vehicle to get from point A to point B. I used it to get through, as opposed to me just saying, this is what's wrong and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, here's how I can get this point across. And that's what The Mind of a Saint is about.
Bro, round of applause for that shit, bro. Man, it's like, I agree, man. This is one of these projects that needs to be recognized and celebrated and pretty much held on a pedestal, you know what I'm saying? Like a museum and all that kind of stuff. Because it's like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, and not many times I'll sit here and just be like, just listen and just break down. Like, I'm just like
so hands-free.
It's great, man.
Yeah, even, I reached out, giving them dap, hiding my nervousness, hoping they don't pick up the cue of me or my services. Like, I'm hoping these little boys don't subconsciously know who I am. Of course, they don't know. Right, they don't know nothing about the street. They 4 and 1 years old. But I'm hoping subconsciously they don't feel that aura of who I am and all these bodies I got on me and all this coke residue under my fingernails and all that. One had a smile of gold, the other had hair like he was Jesus. So that was me trying to sell the point of, this is Nipsey I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like, because again, I couldn't say hair. Nipsey. Exactly. The silky hair and all that. Black Sam with the big smile. One had a smile of gold, the other had hair like he was Jesus. I looked at them both like the city needs them. Like, we are the world, the children of the future. Whitney Houston, I believe the children of the future, which is the 80s, which was a huge record. So I'm looking at them like the city needs them. Like, it's about these kids. It ain't about me. I'm looking at them like this. So that's when the other side of Franklin comes out, like, because Franklin's an intelligent guy. He's not a big Dion. He's not a man boy where it's just the street and that's that. He was raised different. So he would look at them and be like, nah, man, these kids is what it's about. Whereas Big Dion wouldn't give a fuck about a kid, or Man Boy wouldn't give a fuck about a kid, or Scully. He was raised different. So I looked at them both like the city needs them. Pistol on my waist, but my Lacoste was draped over it. He always wore the Lacoste because that was the 80s. Pistol on my waist, but my Lacoste was draped over it. Thank God. This ain't what I want baby Jesus noticing. Again, I'm trying to sell to you.
Like
I'm talking about Nipsey, but I can't say it. You know what I'm saying? Thank God. This ain't what I want baby Jesus noticing. Fiends walking by that I knew from my grand opening. Like the same people who I was giving free product to that first day in the projects with Leon and Kevin, those same people are now fiended out.
You're hoping that they don't make the connection in front of, and interrupt this this back and forth with you and the father of these two children, because then that kind of let it out that you know who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I'm like, fiends walking by that I knew from my grand opening. My grand opening meaning the first day I went outside, I said, you know what? And Lee was like, yo, man, how much we selling it for? And nothing. We're not selling it for. What you mean we ain't sell? Nothing. You can't sell something to people when they don't know what it is. We're giving all this work out. Fiends walking by that I knew from my grand opening. Those same people who took the freebie 4 or 5 years later was fiended out. Those same people, 3, 4 years, whatever it is, they're fiended out.
Yeah.
Fiends walking by that I knew from my grand opening. A feeling came over me, I pray don't ever come over them, meaning Nip and Sam, you know what I'm saying? My reputation walks in front of me like it's security. I hide behind more business cards and less jewelry. Just getting back to the idea of you never saw Franklin in the Benz. You never saw Franklin with jewelry on. He was never loud. He ain't dressed loud because it was all about being low and being quiet with this money. You know what I mean? So, but then I knew it would still be a reach for people to get it. Shout out to my man Deron. That's my guy out in LA, man. That's like family. And I remember being in LA when we were shooting the video. I was out there, so the album wasn't out yet. We're shooting a straight drop video, and I'm letting him hear the album in the car. And when I got to this verse, he caught it right away because of the Ermias part. Ermias is not a common name in America. So when I said that part, he was like, "You talking about Nip?" And I was like, yeah. He was like, yo, bring that back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I brought it back, and he was like, oh, shit. He was like, yo, LA is going to love you for this, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was like, wow, you talking about Nip. You know what I mean? He was like,
I had a little hint of it when I heard, when I heard the track, and then when I was reading the lyrics, I was like, Slauson. I was like, bro, I'm like, that's not a neighborhood that's usually promoted out. You know what I'm saying? Besides Nip, you know what I'm saying? He was always claim it. So, like, I don't know, man. It's fucking awesome, bro.
Thank you. Yeah. So I knew people would have a hard time connecting the dots. Yeah. So I put up a video on the gram of just the verse. Yeah. With a picture of Nip and Sam and Brother DeWitt, and it went stupid. They went. It was like, yo. That's what you, oh my God, I get it now. And I put the whole verse there, and they was like, yo, no, this is it. People was like, yo, this is the greatest Nipsey Hussle tribute I ever heard. Wow. People was like, yo, I cried listening to this verse. With good reason. Like, it was wild, man. And I did that to, again, I wrote the verse to connect the dots of, yes, Snowfall is a fictional show. Yeah. But it is about realistic times, realistic events that happen, and it's about something that happened to us as black and brown folks in our communities in the 80s, which we're still feeling the ripple and domino effects of. Yeah. So I had to make sure people remembered, yo, it's bigger than a TV show. It is a reality. They're using the TV show to tell this story, but it is a reality. Like what happened with Franklin. This isn't, John Wick or something. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that really happened and still happens. And here's how I can prove the fiction is a reality in a sense, and the irony of that being true.
Like the character might be a fictional character,
but this is something that really happened and it's still happening. So let me connect it to the real world that you guys know,
I'm familiar with,
and be like, wow, I get it. And that was why I wrote the verse the way I wrote it.
I don't even know what to say. First time, y'all. I don't know what to say after that. Like, what do you add on? Thorough work.
Thank you.
It goes to show you that, like you said, people could take that shortcut and just like line for line detail.
Oh, most people would have just had a ball, just retelling the story.
Correct.
Yo, so Franklin went and did this, and then Jerome went and did that. That's corny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nah.
Signs of a true artist.
This is, listen, man. There's a saying that I came up with. I said it years ago in a freestyle. There's a difference between nice and elite. A lot of people are nice. There's a lot of people out here. Yo, he nice. She nice. No doubt. Cool. There's a difference between nice and elite. Straight up and down. And when you do things like this, and this isn't me breaking my shoulder to pat myself on the back, but this is when you do things like this and you go to this place with it, there's the proof of, okay. Elite. There we go.
Yeah.
That's the tipping point,
Yo, where can they find an elite MC like you? Where can they follow?
Oh, man. Twitter @Skyzoo, Instagram @Skyzoo the writer. I'm everywhere, and the album is everywhere, and honored to say that the album was #1 the week that it dropped, #1 hip hop album in the country. So that was amazing. Shout to my bros, the other guys, man. Shout to them. Indeed. This is a 50-50 album. This is not a Skyzoo album. This is Skyzoo and the other guys. and they did all the production on the album. I wrote all the rhymes, they did all the beats. So shout to them. And the deluxe version is coming soon.
Fresh.
You know,
looking forward to that.
Because the album is seasons 1 through 5. So now with season 6, where it's the final season of the show, I have to talk about whatever's happening. So I'm watching the show in real time. I'm watching the season, of course, as a super fan. And I've already got ideas and wheels turning. I'm not going to write anything until the season is over, so I can see where all of this goes.
Yeah.
But I've already got ideas. My wheels are already turning. It's not going to be a whole new album. It'll probably be like 4 or 5 songs that we add to it. So it'll be The Mind of a Saint, the deluxe edition, the deluxe version.
Fresh.
Fresh, bro.
Yeah, Beleaf, this is something else, man.
Yeah, man. This is one of them episodes, bro.
This
Like,
is why
you know
you came up with the idea to even do something like this. Like, I think we
man.
just witnessed the epitome of what Barcodes is supposed to be.
man.
I appreciate it.
Yo.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming
Definitely.
on the show, man. Especially having an elite MC break down something as intricate and deep as this. It's an honor to have you here, man. And we'll hope to see you again, man. We're gonna bother you again. We're gonna call you up.
Let's do it. Let's
You
do
know what
it.
I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We might find ourselves somewhere in the A with some recording equipment and some lights.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Peace and love.
In the meantime, subscribe, comment, like, all that good shit, and we'll catch you again in Barcodes.
Yes, sir.
Steps to it like what I measure for y'all. One day I met a brother named DeWitt on the corner of Crenshaw and Slauson with his kids, teaching them black pride and about owning where we live. I overheard the talking when it told them who I'm is, minus the coke, of course. I said I'm Franklin. I own some properties all over town, and yo, I admire the way you giving your boys crowns. He said, man, I'm just doing my job, being encouraging. This is my son Sammy, and my little one is Ermias. I reached out, giving them dap, hiding my nervousness, hoping they don't pick up the cue of me or my services. One had a smile of gold, the other had hair like he was Jesus. I looked at them both like the city needs them. Pistol on my waist, but my Lacoste was draped over it. Thank God, this ain't what I want, baby Jesus noticing. Fiends walking by that I knew from my grand opening. Feelings came over me, I pray don't never come over them. My reputation walk in front of me like it's security. I hide behind more business cards, less jewelry. DeWitt doted on his kids until the day was done. Sammy was maybe 4, Ermi is maybe 1. With a soul full of guilt and a trunk with product stock, I downplayed my car and told them you could buy your block. And as DeWitt and his family made their way up the street, I saw that what I did to this corner's bigger than me. Yo, I need purity, just keep everything pure. No steps to it like what I measure for y'all. Just give me purity.